2024. Every time I hear that, I no longer feel like I need to write, 2023, right? I can just write 24, and I don't know what that is, because when I think about the fact that we're into a new year, someone said, well, Bill, you have any resolutions? And I said, I really don't, but I tell you the thing that I know that I want to do, and that is I want to make sure that the word in regards to the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust gets out there. So I'm going to say Happy New Year, Bill Diggs, Executive Director of the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. And I've got my good friend and cohort and my war partner here with me today, Dr. Marcus Bright, who runs the youth services for the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. Marcus, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Diggs. And it's funny that you said 23 to 24. The first thing I do every morning is I write down 10 things I'm grateful for and why I'm grateful for them. And I put the date, I put 1/3/23, and then I had to cross out 24. But I'm really grateful to be a part of this great agency. Grateful to be here on behalf of the youth services team. Yeah. We have a tremendous team: Jordan Pate Garrett, Dominique Turner, Sharonda Say, Kelvin Taylor, Mark Starkey, Quentin Hester. I'm grateful to be a part of this team and the bigger MD team.
Well, listen, man. First of all, we try not to play favorites, right? But I got to tell you, I have, when we started, the division that you're running was just teen court, and I'll say you and I had a vision in regards to where we need to take this thing, because man, some folks say our children are in trouble. I think that we as adults are in trouble because we have not accepted our role in making sure that our children are prepared for this great county called Miami-Dade County, which, by the way, before we came on the air, you said something to me that blew my mind. And you said that Miami-Dade County is larger than 15 states in regards to population. I was like, wait a minute, there's only 50 states, right? So that's huge to know that we're that large. And when you think about the fact that we're almost 20% of the school population, 16% of the overall population in regards to race, Black folk. And I said, if we don't get it right here, it's not going to be right. So I want to spend some time with you today to really talk to you about your vision, because I got to give you credit, man. I mean, I told somebody, I said, I know this. And I said, when you started with me, you and I had a 2-year contract. I said, look, all right, you got to give me 2 years. Well, I know we're coming up on that, right? But I also see the incredible difference you've made in that organization, man. And I think it's a compliment to you. It's a compliment because you continue to talk about your team. And for anybody that's running an organization, I will tell you that, you're no better than the people that work for you. But also, too, you acknowledging that fact, I think, creates a level of humility and respect for those around you, man. So I'm glad that you started with that comment. But listen, tell me who Dr. Marcus Bright is. Give me the 5-minute bio about who you are. I know you're a father, you're a husband, you're an accomplished author, you're a heck of an orator, but you're also driven in the community. So from your perspective, tell us who you are.
Well, I'm originally from an area of West Tennessee, town called Martin, Tennessee. I'm the first generation of my family not to pick cotton since arriving here. My mom grew up in a town called Alamo, Tennessee, picking cotton, and it was education that made a better way of life for them. And they really embedded, both my mom and my dad embedded the importance of history, the importance of sacrificing, that we stand on the shoulders of all of those who had the ability but did not have the opportunity. And so it's always been embedded in me and driven in me a bigger purpose. We mentioned the team. We in youth services, we say big purpose, big mission, and we're grateful to be able to align our bigger purpose, our bigger calling with what it is that we do every day. And so this job it's not just a job, it's really an extension of the calling. And throughout the journey, I've taught at 5 universities: public administration, FAU, FIU, Lynn University, University of Massachusetts Amherst, and City University.
Amherst. Wow, that one I didn't know.
University of New York, Medgar Evers College, been administrator at Medgar Evers College and FIU. Ran the education arm of National Action Network, which is a civil rights organization. Was an administrator for the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project here in Miami-Dade County Public Schools for 4 years. Salute to Congresswoman Wilson for founding that great program over 30 years ago. It's now in 124 schools here.
You know, every time someone brings up Congresswoman Wilson's name, I think about the Ali quote when he beat Sonny Liston. He said, "I shocked the world, I shocked the world," and he says, "I'm a bad man." and I attribute that to Frederica Wilson. Yeah. She is a bad sister, and I don't say that with any disrespect, because as a congresswoman, she certainly is at the epicenter of the things that have helped Miami-Dade County to go. So, you know, and I when I see her, I hug and I thank her for allowing for you to come to be a part of our team, man, because I know that it was a big deal for you to make that transition. But I'm excited because of you know, kind of where we're going because of the vision that she kind of exacted. But keep going.
Well, yeah, I think, and as I alluded to, I may have left that job role, but never left the calling. And so we integrate the 5,000 role models in what we do in youth services and in our programming in the schools, because it's in so many schools, and we're all a part of a collective mission. It's going to take all of us. Dr. King said we're all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied together by a common garment of destiny. And so a lot of what my career has been facilitating strategic partnerships with, I mentioned Education for a Better America. We did that in 15 different cities across the country, with churches, with universities, with unions, with institutions, with corporations, and the same thing with the role models. They bring about a lot of partnerships with the Dolphins, with the Heat, with hospitals, and so we've tried to bring all of that experience here, and it's almost been like the perfect mix between advocacy, between the world of activism, between the world of policy, but then also bringing that to programming that is geared toward economic advocacy. As we're in January, we're coming up on the Dr. King holiday. This is really, the agency is an extension of his last few years on earth were about economic advocacy. After the signing of the Voting Rights Act, 5 years later, they rioted in Watts.
There you go.
And that was about economic access, about economic opportunity. And so this agency really, if you look at the different divisions between housing, he pushed for the Fair Housing Act, open housing, marching into the Chicago suburb of Cicero, open housing, access to housing, access to wealth. And then economic opportunity. He was in the midst of organizing a poor people's campaign, economic opportunity, access, justice for the masses. And we are continuing this mission here in Miami-Dade County under your great leadership. Thank you so much.
Well, listen, like I said before, we're vehicles, right? I mean, to what I think, and I'm going to say this to the future. I spent a lot of years in this community as well as you have. And when I think about our children, man, and I'll say this, we're trying to help adults to get housing. Consequently, they're doing better because of it. But from a mission-based perspective and Christ-centered, we are guiding children. And I think that that's where the difference in regards to youth services really sits at, because your mission is really high-minded. When I started, and this was, when I was begging you to come to work for me, we were trying to figure out how to make all that work. Jordan Pay Gary, you mentioned her earlier, she put this long 11 by 17 sheet on my desk. It was green, and it was the trends for the month in regards to youthful arrest. It showed what agency arrested the child, the race of the child, where he was arrested at, what the charge was for. And as I looked at that, I realized that a supermajority of children that are being arrested were Black. I was like, wait a minute. And I thought about my own self as a juvie, right? I thought about it as a child, and you listen, this whole push to seal records and expunge records, I applaud folk that are doing that work. I really do. But let me tell you, in today's world of technology, once you have a record, it doesn't go away. You can't hide it in the ether deep enough for no one not to find it. And so it creates the inability for a child who is now wanting to becoming a working adult and part of the fabric of this community. It almost prevents them from achieving anything that they want to achieve. And by the way, if you got a record, you can't get a federal job. I don't care what happens. You know, and yes, we talk about sealing and expunging records, but at the end of the day, why are they getting them? Every day people make choices in being the police. And so one of the pieces of work that I love that you and your team have done, man, is the school to prison pipeline report. Tell me about how that came about. Help me understand, and for those that are listening, kind of what the value of that has been.
Well, both our policy and programming thrusts are built around disrupting the school to prison pipeline and then creating new pipelines to economic prosperity. And what you mentioned, and you know, we partnered with the University of Miami researchers, a great researcher, Dr. Todd Warner, Dr. Mary Avalos, and then our research department, Matthew Tisdall and Cameron Floyd and Jordan and yourself. It was a collaborative process where we were able to secure the data for them to then produce the report. And the findings from the report were really striking. You know, I think that it's something that we knew, the school to prison pipeline as a nomenclature. We had a feeling, we knew the disproportionality in terms of Black youth arrests, but the numbers, it examined youth arrests in Miami-Dade County from 2010 to 2022. And if you just look at 2022, now the numbers are pretty much standard every year, but 2022, Black youth make up 17% of the youth population as a whole, 63% of the arrests. Black males make up 9% of the youth population and 52% of the arrests. And that was really, really jarring as we mentioned the career. I really had to sit with the numbers.
Yeah.
Because it's ironic that, you know, God will lead you through certain routes and I was telling Mr. Miller I was over academics for the athletes at FIU, but I was primarily with football and basketball.
Sure.
These were Black males.
Right.
But Medgar Evers College, I was at the Male Development and Empowerment Center, and then the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project. And I thought about the 30 years that the Congresswoman put in. I think about all the site directors who work with these young men and all of the work that people put in. And these are the numbers.
Yeah.
And these are the numbers.
Yeah.
And it really made, and we wanted to take a deep dive and look at the issue, dive into some of the root causes of it, and then put forth a policy advocacy memo to at least put on the radar some of the policy targets, because it's ultimately, we're going to have master programming, but we're going to have policy change and policy prescriptions that are multidimensional.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to really begin and focus our efforts. And I think in 2023, you know, we were thermometers. We told you the temperature.
Right.
In 2024, we're going to be thermostats.
How about
we're going to change and create the environment for policy to advance. And so we put together some initial policy recommendations. We wanted to put it out there. We wanted to put it in the hands of policymakers, in the hands of our community members. We're going to continue to do that. For example, as we took a deep dive and we met with, for example, the Miami-Dade County Public Schools Educational ETO, Educational Transformation Office, and they alerted us, certain members alerted us in terms of the numbers of the percentage of students who weren't reading on grade level, which is very, very significant. And then if you link that with incarceration, you see that 70% of prison inmates don't read above a 4th grade level. 85% of those who young people who interact with the juvenile justice system are functionally low literate. And so we began to look at how can we bring our children up to grade level. And it really starts before they even enter kindergarten. And so one of our policy recommendations is one, to extend the VPK program from 3 hours to a full day. And then ultimately we want to get to, and this may be a national push or a national initiative, a universal public option for early learning coverage. We should not be waiting until kindergarten to put our children into professional learning environments. And the fact is that the way that the system is currently set up is cost prohibitive for many of the middle and working class who don't qualify for Head Start, but can't afford to put their children in high quality early learning settings. And because we have not addressed that as a country, many of our young people, by the time you reach third grade, you should be reading to learn. We don't meet that metric. If you can read fluently by third grade, you're 6 times more likely to graduate. High school dropouts are 5 times more likely to go to prison. And so these are some of the root causes. These are some of the policy recommendations that we want to put forward, that we want to put in the atmosphere, that we want to create the environment to advance, to ultimately not just disrupt the school to prison pipeline, but to create new pipelines of opportunity and to stop, to put a stop to the mass incarceration epidemic and the shuttling of so many of our young people into the new Jim Crow system, whereas you alluded to, once you get that record, you're hampered for the rest of your life in terms of housing, in terms of education, in terms of your civic and political rights.
And I think that we do need to call it what it is, right? I mean, listen, we've industrialized these complexes so much more that it's become an industry. Mm-hmm. It's like, you get companies on the stock market that are making money from the demise of people of color. And folks say, well, Bill, it affects everybody. I said, ultimately it does. When we talk about the workforce, when we talk about the ability to be able to exist within the inner city and the urban issues, because at the end of the day, if someone needs to eat, they're going to find a way to get that food. Tragically enough, so many times we as a community, we get caught up in the issue without a response, right? And I think that where we're at now as an organization is that we are responding. So, one of the things I always say is block out the noise and let's do the work. Mm-hmm. Because the data, however you want to slice it, is absolutely correct in regards to what we have found. And what we have found, in my mind, is really, like you said, it's a new Jim Crow. Mm-hmm. Listen, if you can create an environment where prison becomes a norm, then it becomes accepted. And the problem is so many of us have, and then we talk about the epidemic in regards to these women raising these children without a father. Well, that's because daddy's locked up, essentially, right? I mean, and we're talking about young Black America, that instead of the trend going in the other direction, like you talked about in 2022, how awful the numbers were. And then, and by the way, these folk have choices, right? And I'm talking about these arresting officers or whatever, because one of the things that we found out is there's a whole conglomerate around warn and dismiss, where you warn someone and you dismiss them, so they never actually see, the juvenile justice system where it becomes a burden to anybody else. And invariably, we see by the numbers that other folk are being warned and dismissed at a higher rate than our children are. So let's talk for a quick second about a couple of the different initiatives that we got underway. We know that we're doing something with Ms. Dupree in regards to educating some kids that have been attending high school but never got a high school diploma. And then also too, Marcus, from there I want to blend into, really where we're going with the new articulation agreement that we have between Youth Services, Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, and the school system. I'm really excited about that, and congratulations for being able to kind of take our program and to move it into 10 different high schools. So let's talk about that too. Yes,
well, as a part of, after the release of the youth arrest report, we had a series of 3 different school to prison pipeline symposiums that looked at different aspects of the issue. And one of the recommendations, that we had was that we want to move toward an educational system where students are able to graduate high school with an industry recognized credential. If you got to start in elementary school, you got to start in middle school, we need our students in this kind of economic environment need to be graduating with some kind of an industry recognized credential. Yeah. And 2 that we highlighted particularly were the trades and were tech. As an example, we didn't land on Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has landed on us. At one point, we were number 1 in terms of tech job sector growth, in terms of tech job sector migration. And it is imperative that we navigate, that we move in mass to some of these higher wage industries, right, in the most unaffordable area in America right now from a housing perspective. And so you alluded to Dr. Angela Dupree, who attended the first one. She is She is the district director of career and technical education for the Miami-Dade County Public School District. And one of the things we want to do was elevate the trades. We want to put on the radar of our young people these great professions in the trades, and then hopefully put them on a pathway where they can potentially graduate with the industry recognized credential in a trade. Now, there are those, as I mentioned from the report, that you're 5 times more likely, high school dropouts are 5 times more likely to be arrested. And so that's the number one targeted group, particularly the black male high school dropout statistically is the most at risk of going into the new Jim Crow system where you can be legally discriminated against. And so Dr. Dupree came to one of the symposiums and talked about and highlighted a program called the Ability to Benefit, to where you can take 225 hours towards a credential, a trade credential, pass the acuplacer test, and then it would then qualify you. It would unlock the federal financial aid for you to continue your program. Yeah. The issue was that there was about $500 or $550 or so dollars that one would have to pay out of pocket.
Right.
And again, as I mentioned, the most unaffordable housing market, and I mean you paying more now for even for car insurance than the car note.
There you go.
Homeowners insurance is up. You're looking at housing. Your housing prices increasing 50, 60, 70% for what you were planning. So people just don't have the discretionary income, and so we are trying to open the door, right?
Yep.
Open the door of opportunity to our students who have not graduated high school, and give them an avenue toward economic prosperity. So that is one initiative that is a piece of a broader push, a broader policy push. We want to put the infrastructure. We want to help to bolster the existing infrastructure around trade and tech and other industries that are in school. But then we want to create the environment to where the infrastructure that we need to prepare students to be economically viable is in existence. So that is a part of a whole career pathways push that we are doing.
But I want to be clear about one thing though. The thing that I love about the program that we've been able to support Dr. Dupree with is you now have these kids who have gone to high school that literally walk across the stage without a high school diploma. Yeah. It's almost like America's shame, right? Here you have kids that have gone from first grade through 12th grade. They've been diligent, they've been attending school, they've been showing up, they've been pushed forward, but then they don't get a high school diploma because they have not achieved at a level academically high enough to get a high school diploma. And so our program helps those kids.
Yeah.
I want for people to understand, Marcus, that this is not a helping hand. This is a right. If your son spends 12 years with you and he does not know how to function when he leaves, my question is, whose fault is it? I mean, right? I mean, because at some point we got to call it what it is. My son is absolutely, and your son, who I love, is a reflection of who we are. And if my son spent 12 years with me, and people say, well, you can't be responsible for adults. These are children that we've said go from first grade through 12th, and then you'll get a diploma. And you've got kids that have done that, walking across the stage and don't receive a high school diploma. This program helps them.
Absolutely. And it's a population that we have ignored in many instances.
We really have.
And we have not targeted them.
About it. Yeah.
And because we have not targeted them, the criminal justice system has targeted them.
There you go.
And so we are opening the door.
Yeah.
We are opening the door. So that is one aspect of the career pathways program that we will continue. And then we also have 2 programs that are really designed to redirect students from the school to prison pipeline to pipelines of opportunity in the community with Teen Court, which is a diversion program for those young people who have committed a misdemeanor offense for the first time. It's giving them a second chance. But then it's also...
And I really like that program too, because I think the thing that I want to say, and we need to move on because we got about 7 minutes left, that I'm grateful for, is that we have judges that take time out of their schedule and volunteer. And I say real live judges, right?
Yeah.
People who actually sit on the bench who wear, the smock of a judge, that helps these children to understand kind of, how serious this is.
Yes, absolutely. We're so grateful for those volunteers who volunteer their time to pour into the next generation and to mentor the student attorneys and student bailiffs and student clerks. And so you really have a legal career pathway at the same time that you're providing youth with a second chance.
Right on.
And then we're doing the same thing now with the student court program, but not with misdemeanor offenses, but with minor school-based violations like skipping class or cheating or being disruptive or small petty theft or minor fights, and providing schools with their own system of adjudication, but that replicates the teen court process, but then does it at the school level.
Is this the one that we're putting in these 10 schools?
Yes,
Okay.
Student court, yes. And the 10 schools are Dr. Michael Kropp, Miami Norland, Miami Carroll City, Miami Central, Miami Northwestern, William H. Turner Technical, Arts High School, Miami Killian, Miami South Ridge, and South Dade Senior High School.
Well, we got the whole county wrapped up.
Yeah, and we're grateful for
And congratulations for that, man. I mean, listen, we've all been involved with the school system on one level or another, but I want to let you know how grateful I am that you were able to market this program and such that they would see the value of it, that our Superintendent Dortris and his staff would embrace us and allow for us to be in those 10 schools. That's a big deal for me. I can't wait. I know we've got most of our kickoffs coming up in the middle of January or so.
Yes.
I'm going to attend as many of those as I can. But I love this growth in our maturation process as an organization, where we are now going to be in the schools providing this kind of help. So kudos to you for doing that.
Well, thank you, and thank you to our team for conducting all of these trainings in these schools, and thank you certainly to, as you said, Superintendent Dortris and Mr. Luis Diaz, Guillermo Munoz, Maria Hernandez from the school district, and all of the principals. There's a implementation team that's in place at all of these schools that really are helping to make this program to be the best that it can be.
Yeah, because these principals, by the way, and if you see me now, principals, thank you. I know that each one of you have your own economic goals because you're running a multi-million-dollar business as a CEO of that school, and for you to trust us enough to allow for Dr. Brighton and staff to come in and do this work, I'm going to let you know that I'm extremely grateful for that. I can't thank you enough.
And I want to mention an upcoming event that we have at the FIU Modesto MDEAT campus, used to be called the South Campus, on January 23rd, Tuesday, January 23rd, 2 p.m. in the Graham Center. Front and center, Graham Center.
Wow.
GC, they call it 140 Auditorium. We're going to have Your Power, Your Freedom, Keeping the Dream Alive policy forum. In the spirit of Dr. King, we're going to examine what it is that is going on at the state level in terms of issues of higher education, particularly around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what the ramifications are for students. We'll have attorney Allison Matuli, who's a specialist on the First Amendment, as Dr. King in his last speech said.
Wow.
Somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly.
Exactly.
Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Right. And so we want to be sure that their rights are, that people know their rights and their right to organize and mobilize and have the right to fight for what is right. And we want to hear and support the students, faculty, and staff there, and figure out the best way to move forward as it pertains to access, equity, and opportunity in higher education.
That's going to be a powerful day. Because I think, like I said before, it's one thing to have the scholarly papers that we're writing. It's another thing to have the support of the community the way that we do. But it's like, when you take a big, mighty bet that way, sometimes you got to swing it, right? And because if you don't, then, as my good friend James Brown said, you just talk aloud and you ain't saying nothing.
Yeah.
And I believe that we're at the point now where we're trying to open up the door. You know, I mean, and I think that there's real value in understanding where we're going, because we've done a lot to expose the issue. But again, as leaders in this space, we have the ultimate responsibility. And that's why I continue to talk about the growth of youth services, that we cannot just continue to act like the problem doesn't exist. We've got to provide solutions. One, because intellectually, we're capable of it. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that if God gives you a gift and you don't use it, then sooner or later, you're not going to have that gift anymore. You know, and this is our moment in time. This is our opportunity to really make sure that this bat that we've, you know, put on a ladle and we've shaved it down and we've sandpapered it and we've helped everybody to understand that our children are dealing with all these challenges. We can't just talk about the problem. We have to provide solutions. And so that's really what this event at FIU is about. And I'll tell anybody, no one executes better than the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust when we are given the opportunity to load the bat, right? So we're there now. What we've got to do is, you know, the community, you can either come along or you can come as we drag you kicking and screaming, because we are moving in that absolute direction of making sure that the advocacy word that exists within our moniker is so valuable and so important. Because listen, our future depends on it. I've said before, many of us have got children. You know, Dominique's got a wonderful young man as a son. You know, we've got to give him the ability to be able to grow unfettered and not be threatened by the issues that are out there. Jordan's got these two beautiful twin girls. Who are they going to marry if they achieve at the highest level? Will there be black boys that will become black men that will be in a community that's not so dystopian in regards to their ability to be able to be great? This is our time, and this is our moment. And I want to leave the last word to you, as we come to a close in regards to kind of what the value of the work that you're doing really looks like.
Well, our mentality, as I mentioned, this year, 2024, the year of the thermostat. And our theme, we have a group text, I put it in every morning, #now or never. This is a historic period. We will look back at this period and what is going on nationally, what is going on in our state, what is going on locally. We have historic challenges, but also historic opportunities. And we must step into the moment with transformative programming and transformative policy. Now or never, 2024, we're going for it all.
That's the word. Ready. Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate that.